Mama, I love you. Words can't explain how much I love you. I had to go out on Christmas, made that song for you. What I did for you in the past broke my heart. But Mama, I'm here for you right now, so let's go to lunch and take that piece of the heart back in. Then I have to go switching these lanes. Yeah, I love you. Mom, I love you. Oh no, I would do without you. I don't know what I would do without you, but I love you, Mama. Words can't explain, and I forget in my lane. But I love you, Mama. I know I'm growing up, it's okay. I'm just gonna make you proud. I don't think I'm a good son, but you think I'm a good son. So Mama, I love you. Mama, I love you. Thank you for always staying by my side. I'm Little Zip. You're the only one in this house believing in me, in the music, in the industry. Mama, I know I did a lot of bad things, but I love you, Mama. Words can't explain what I can't explain how much I love you. Yeah, I'm sorry for the pain I gave you. I'm sorry for the pain I gave you. I'm sorry for all the abuse I did to you in the past. Then that was in the past, let's make that last. Cause I'm here now better than anyone you know. I'm Little fucking Zip. Gonna get famous before I can buy your RV. Then you can't see the hitters. Cause Mama, I'm doing this for me and you. I had to go in crazy and screw these nails in my head to take the old Zip away. So I had to go insane with the new Zip. Mama, I love you. Mama, part 2 out. Done. I love you, Mom.
Hey, everybody. I don't know how good this is going to be. I haven't had time to really sniff around, but I saw something called Paranormal Murders at Corpsewood Manor, guys. That sounds scary. It's probably not, though. You know, it's probably going to be something stupid knowing my luck. But we're going to try it, guys. You ready for some the 1982, guys, Corpsewood night, whatever the fuck. We're going to find out. Let's do it. The following program is intended for mature audience only. It may not be suitable for younger viewers. Parental discretion is advised. Shukya, are you old enough? Are you old enough to be watching this? A Dove Broadcasting presentation, guys. You ready for some paranormal murders?
The story that you're about to see is incredible but true.
It's Train.
It happened a short time ago in a small town not far away.
I don't know. Well, 1982 was a long time ago. I'm just saying.
This man could have been your neighbor living in your community.
It could have been
For Dr.
Hanford.
Charles Scudder was a very brilliant man, a professor in Loyola University in Chicago.
Oh, the esteemed.
His main field of knowledge was in psychopharmacology, which is the science
Psychopharmacology.
of drugs
Sounds
and the
crazy.
influence of the human mind. What could make a successful man with a good teaching job, a lovely mansion, money, family, and friends, just suddenly give it all up? to seek a brand new life in total isolation, to live off of the land with no electricity.
I know what turned him. He ordered a burger and got a fucking chicken sandwich.
Or other modern conveniences. I wonder, was he seeking for love, lust, or power? He often said that he found no power in Christianity, so he turned to Satan, for he and he alone.
Why would you turn to Satan? Don't you know that guy likes putting his wieners in dude butts?
Would give you all your wants and your desires. Could
And
his
dog
remark
butts.
be true? I wonder. As he struggled between the power of darkness and the power of light, the darkness seemed to overtake him.
I'm scared, guys. Let's move this over here. Let's do a little fancifying, as we like to call it on the streets, guys. Look at that! Professional.
This 40 acres of land was purchased by Dr. Scudder and his live-in companion, Joey Odom, to live on in total peace and happiness.
Looks a little
The
overgrown.
property is covered by many dormant trees, and a feeling that you just can't explain covers these lands.
Spookiness!
The smell and the flies, they fill the air, and you find it
Flies go wherever this bitch goes.
sometimes hard to breathe. As you walk, you wonder who and what has walked these grounds before you.
Hanford?
For many things, many strange things
Dennis Ramsey?
seem to take place on this property. Why, even the very name is
It's a
strange.
handsome woman.
The road that is leading to this property was given the name the Dead Horse Road. Dr. Scudder gave it this name because he found the carcass of a dead horse blocking
little
their
guy.
entrance when they first arrived. The land looks lifeless, and the bare trees looks like death.
All right, lady.
And the
come on.
closer I get, I sense a presence. I wonder if they sensed the presence the first day they arrived.
I
And
feel the
Dr. Scudder
spookiness.
named this land Corpsewood.
This is not going to end well, guys.
As you come into the clearing to see the house,
Is that Jim Jones? Pretty sure that's Jim Jones.
you stand here and you wonder
What a
how
pass.
something so unique and different and beautiful, really, could be so evil.
It's kind of an ugly house.
And as you begin just to span the landscape, see the house and see the flowers, and it's just different.
Are you saying she was
The
herfing?
structure of the house, everything in the round.
You want to say I'm herfing to my face, little feller? Do you know who I is? I'll kill you. Look at that. Look at the body on that bitch. It's a killing machine.
And then you see the gazebo there and the doors. Everything is strange. A lot of things went on that you might not understand, or you've never come in contact with the spirits that's actually on this land.
Demons
there's
playing
something
PS
here.
Triple.
Why, even the pool,
The poo.
the green slime. I'm going to tell you about this.
Wasn't there
place.
until you relieved yourself.
Things that really happened here.
She's going to get to the
Hard
bottom of
to
this,
see
guys.
how something so beautiful as this could become so evil and corrupt. But it did. There's so much.
Where
that
is the
we'll
bell
share
tower?
with
That's a good
you
question.
That happened on these 40 acres of beautiful, beautiful ground. Death came to this land.
Shit! Not Dale. Hey, who's that guy?
There were many
That's
people
good. That's the guy telling her, go back before it's too late. You're doomed.
who went to visit Dr. Scudder, but one of the most frequent visitors to this estate was a man named Zeke.
Mr. Goat. Oh.
Zeke is a very interesting man and a very unusual man with a very unusual lifestyle. Because
What is
you
he?
see,
What is he? Hanging or something?
he is a practicing nudist.
You mean you just walk around with your tallywhacker hanging out?
And even to this day, in the late afternoon, Zeke can be found sunbathing on this property.
Gross. Hey, Zeke, it's time to hang up the ball bag. You know what I mean? Enough.
He said to me, if this house and this land could talk, and we could understand,
It would say, Zeke, put your pants back on.
it would have a strange, strange story to tell. Zeke, I understand you were here many times for a lot of parties and things.
Yes.
What kind of parties were they?
Well,
Rockin'.
mostly drinking parties, and we had nude parties,
Oh, wow. Imagine Zeke there.
and then drinking, smoking pot, and whatever. It's mostly a pleasure thing. Most people come in yard, do their own thing, come up here and get away, get out of the public's eyes or anything like that.
What did you do when you came up here?
Well, I practice nudism. I'm a great believer in nudist life, and I like to come in and do some nude sunbathing and
Please don't, Zeke.
practice nudism and do my thing here
You
too.
know Zeke likes to rock. You don't grow a mustache like that unless you don't fucking rock.
Were you a welcome guest at Dr. Scudder and Joey Odom?
Yes, they were. They welcomed me just as much as they did when I came. We were good friends.
Did you ever
Good
eat
friends.
up here? Did you eat some of Joey's cooking? People tell me it was real good.
Homies
And
for
we
life.
did. We ate a supper. Enjoyed. Had a birthday. Somebody gave him a gift, and we had some baked beans, a coleslaw, and a salad.
Sometimes Zeke would put his pecker in a hot dog bun and everyone would laugh.
And they gave me some tea to drink, and they drank wine. And
Would you show me all around Corpse Wood?
be glad to.
Okay.
Thanks, Zeke.
Tell me
wanna
about
be
this out
like
here,
Zeke?
these beautiful trees. This land wasn't like this when Dr. Scudder came, was it?
No, it wasn't. He had to come out here and clear it all off. He done a lot of hard labor right here and making it beautiful as it was when I first began to come up here.
What about all the rock?
He picked this off the land. It was
Oh, he just grabbed a BC Rich and just started going at it.
on the land. All the rocks came from the land, and then he built a wall there to put some of the scenery in here, keeping water washing too, and then land washing off.
And the grass here.
He planted all of it from layers of grass, made it a soft, moisture ground, and brought it.
The rose
Zeke, have you been
garden.
drinking?
Let's go take a look at it. And then what about these trees here?
He planted all these fruit trees out here because he wanted to make some wine out of some of the
Muscadine wine,
no, not
plums.
plum wine. Yeah.
Zeke, get with it, dude.
Dr. Scudder was, he's a man that loved nature, wasn't he?
Right. He was back to nature, and he told me a lot of things. He enjoyed nature and wanted to live out in a country like this. That he wouldn't work all his life, and he enjoyed nature himself.
The clothes, they're literally burning his skin. He's like, I gotta get naked, lady.
And
What about before he came here? Did he ever talk to you about any of his life in Chicago? What did he do?
well, he was a professor in college, and he taught medicine in Chicago, and he taught students and taught medicine in the University of Chicago, and he was
Zeke, you were painful, dude. You stutter worse than James Hogan.
he's a professor in medicine in school and there.
Why was everything planted in the round? Did he ever mention that to you?
Because it's purty.
Well, not more or less. He did everything he noticed was in around, even the houses, the house, the pump house, the toilet, and all
Corners
that.
are for nerds.
Except
The gazebo.
Looks like a very comfortable
Gazebo.
house.
Yes. But the designs meant something
Now I'll call it Zeke Castle.
to him.
Right, mhm.
What was it?
More or less, and it was some form of thing that he believed in, or
I
maybe
know it's
worship.
hard.
Was he in some kind of satanic worship?
He
Oh,
was,
yeah.
Heavy,
Of
wasn't
course.
Right,
he? Okay.
You know, there's one thing about that guy. He loved Satan.
The rose garden. Whose ashes are strewn out there?
Odom's ashes are buried in the ground, but they say they were buried in a pot or something, and then somebody come up and stole a pot and sold them and went off with them. But they claimed they was sold on that ground too. But I wasn't here at the time. So I don't know.
Easy, bro.
Yeah.
Was Joey
Zeke's flop sweating.
Odom, would you consider his role in this whole scene here as sort of the housekeeper, or he was the one that looked after the place?
Right. He was the one doing all the cooking. He took it to the house, and then Charles was the one come out in the yard and did all the work, and kept the yard trimmed down and the bushes cut and trimmed, and mowed grass and mowed all.
Old crazy Zeke.
Tell me what this building was right out here.
This was the pink room and the storage room, and also the guest room.
Tell me what went on in that building.
This was all the pleasure went on and stuff like that.
Oh.
And they sniffed paint.
Sniff paint. Man, Zeke likes to party.
Pot and drank and told stories, stuff like that, and all night. And
Sex orgies, homosexual acts, everything took place right.
Homosexual acts. They love Zeke's story about the one where he shit in a tree stump. That always gets a big reaction.
Right in that building.
right,
So this.
Yeah, and
this
they ass fucked in there too.
was a building where he entertained.
right. He entertained people here,
This man basically perceived himself to be, to be a Satanist at first. When he left Chicago, he perceived himself to be a Satanist or part of the America's version of the occultic arts. Now, America has some pretty complex roots in the occult itself, not to mention the Native Americans' traditional
That's a good
taboos
question.
and medicine or whatever they considered it to be. The quasi-religious aspect of the American Indians, which dealt quite a bit with the occult, not to mention the voodoo, which was transplanted here from Africa
Voodoo?
by the slaves, and not to mention the homegrown variety of folkism, herb medicines, folk medicines.
I don't want to
local
appear in your wacky
superstitions.
documentary.
The complex thing about this situation is that this man chose not just the average escape from the city into this bizarre plight that he went into. He chose to go to this area, which was basically, naturally speaking, the closest in resemblance to the old world's area. The reason
This guy,
reason
all
the
right, next.
majority
This guy's killing me.
of Satanists are people who perceive themselves to be Satanists, and it's reached a mature level. Satanism was never very powerful in this country, it wasn't an alternative form of religious experience. In our country today, the culture of America has almost reached a point where it's maturing. It's maturing on all its different levels, politically, economically, socially, religiously. Things are culminating right now, during this point in time, during the prophecies of the Revelations, things are culminating to a ripe state of maturity that has bred an in-depth interest that has grown not
He's staring at Zeke's pecker on the other corner of the room. It's like, I can't turn away from that pecker.
from just an interest, but into an in-depth participation in the occult arts.
Oh, picture time.
You may think that this kind of activity just couldn't happen in your neighborhood.
Well, fuck you,
But
you're
believe
wrong.
me, it can.
Look at that.
And it does. But remember that we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Wherefore take unto you the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to withstand
Don't worry, lady. I'll never be a Satanist. Thank you.
in the evil day, and having done all, stand.
I will not be a
Dr.
Zeke.
Scudder was interested in so many things, but poetry and
And it's
music
Cliff.
were two of the things that he really loved. If you will listen closely, you will hear him reciting and playing his golden harp on the
I played a harp. Dang it.
very morning of his death.
Harps are for quarters. It's magic.
When the stars stars threw down their spears and watered heaven with their tears. Did he smile his work to see? Did he who made the land?
Hey Zeke, what are you doing? I'm gonna take my clothes off right quick.
Nice ass, dude.
Thank you.
Make thee tiger.
Zeke is known for his nice
burning
ass.
bright in the forests of the night. What immortal
In the
hand
forest
or
of the
eye dare frame thy fearful symmetry?
What the hell is this?
What do we see in that window?
This was the window where they had the skull. It was
Whoa.
embedded with lead and triangles and different shapes of lead around it, you know. And the skull was in the center. This was the window where the skull was in the window. And on the chimney had the ring with the stars on the two chimneys up here now. And
The pentagram?
pentagram, and there was in this other lower window here.
Did you ask him about these features on this house, why it was different? Was it scary to you?
Cobes would have loved this.
Well, some like I say, I thought it was strange that why that he put these things in the window, and I asked him how did he make the window up there, and he said he made it, laid it down and drawed it on a diagram out and made it and laid the skull in the center. He made his own window like that then.
Someone told me that he at one time was very religious.
Right, he was.
What turned him off of Christianity?
He told me that there wasn't any power, that he didn't believe in God, that there wasn't no power at all in the things that God.
Oh, yeah.
It was very strange to me that I told him, I asked him was he atheist, and he said yes, he didn't believe in God, that there was no power in it.
So he said there was more power in the devil then?
He said there was more power in the devil than actually in the power of what God had.
So that's why he worshipped him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. This was the kitchen.
That guy just loved the devil.
That's what did all the cooking. Joe Odom
What happened to the place?
did all the cooking here in this kitchen here.
What kind of stove?
They had a firewood stove. They built out a wood-burning stove. That's where they cook all their meals at. Yeah.
They changed their interpretation of the power itself. And so their lifestyle changed as a result. They became not necessarily the classical interpretation of devil worshippers, quote, Satanists, quote, Druids. If
Druids?
you can classify Druids with that particular context. They became basically earth-worshipping people, as the Anglo-Saxon forebears were, Druids. Their architectural style of their home, the lifestyle...
Because you gotta admit, Satanism would get boring after a week, you know what I mean? Oh, I'm so evil and spooky and scary. After a week, you'd be like, all right, I'm done with this. This is dumb.
All of their
This is heaven for Cobes, that's right.
their patterns for living, their total dependence on the earth and its source of power, their total dependence on their own...
You wake up, Zeke's in the kitchen, balls ass naked, smoking a cigarette, frying up some eggs.
Food sources, their total independence from all embarrassed, types of lifestyles.
Ham of the devil?
These men perceive the power of the earth and the power of the Lord in a totally different context. It wasn't this
Dude, you are death. No more you.
all-elusive power that most Satanists perceive controls the world. It was a far different one, and therefore their situation changed dramatically. And
I
when
bet
they
you that house is where Katie Kate went.
got here, they isolated themselves for some time, but the curiosity of the people in this area eventually led many facets of people to their door.
It was an eerie, in one sense of the word, an eerie feeling
Oh, shit.
that it's hard to describe altogether.
I'm spooked.
I found that it was very different from anything I'd ever seen. It had the medieval look of a fortress. Some of the objects in the rooms, such as a human skull on the
A
desk.
human skull!
Miniature skulls across the professor's bed. The satanic pentangle.
Did you say pentangle? I'm pretty sure it said pentangle.
The skull window in one of the walls. The gargoyle-shaped mirror in the professor's bedroom. Then the big gargoyle out front
Now that's spooky.
over the gazebo. The gargoyle faces and the pentangles on the chimneys and on the outbuildings. Made me know on some of the books that was in the bookcase all pointed to satanic worship and to homosexual acts, which was all over the house and in the
So much faggotry in that house, guys.
chicken house or playroom. There's quite a bit of that. I've seen literature, whatever you'd like to call it, that you would
Faggot house.
find in a normal home. And in the lifestyle that they lived, and from the rumors that had
Zeke, put your damn clothes on.
I've been drinking. I really don't care.
been circulating over the county for
So
a
much
couple
cheek
of
busting,
years,
Todd
from the
Stewart.
time they had been there until everybody knew they were there. And that some of the things you saw going into the house, the sign nailed to the tree and the locked gate, the gate that had been locked, the sign on the tree nailed to the tree, stating the beware of the thing, and I was later
Yeah,
told
that was Zeke's pecker.
one of the dogs' name was Beelzebub, and that was the sign referred to him.
These guys are tryhards, huh? So much tryhardery,
Flies
guys.
embedded in the windows, the black flies embedded in the glass windows. The frogs that were sitting around. The turkey feathers
Turkey feathers.
in a jar on top of the cupboard.
Yeah.
The pulley bones from some huge bird, presumably I would presume a turkey, hanging from the wagon wheel light fixture in the kitchen. I say light fixture hanging from a wagon wheel. It might have had kerosene lamps on it, I don't remember. But there was approximately 6 or 7 of those big pulley bones.
Man, the soundtrack for this must have been easy. Easy paycheck. Just get a keyboard and or a synthesizer and just hold the key down. I'm going to hold this down for 10 minutes.
Hanging from the wagon wheel and the chain that suspended it.
Are you saying Pink Fairy came from here?
Whips and mace-type apparatus on the walls. And the companions in the professor's companion's room. The filth.
Look at that.
And most of all, I guess, was the blood all over the floors. Not only, well, all throughout the house, even the upstairs, even to the stairs and the upstairs and the bedrooms.
These guys
It was
mean
built
business,
in
guys.
with no corners. Everything, the ends were round and everything.
Let's go in the house.
That they had built it by hand and never laid in a brick at all before in their lives, but had come down and built that.
There was a birthday card that was sent to him from the organizer of the Satanic Church on the West Coast, signed by the man's name, and it said, "Happy 16th birthday, Dr. Scudder." Dr.
Fuck you,
Scudder was
Dr.
54
Scudder.
years old, so it couldn't have been his age. So it had to be that he was involved in the Satan Church for 16 years.
He was reborn into the Church of Satan.
Yes.
He was a follower of their
Right.
conceptualizations of...
Just like Craig.
All right, he
God.
did not receive that birthday card in Chicago. He received it here.
Well, there's no doubt that he had at one time had extensive contacts to the International Church of Satan, and still had massive contacts, but not the International Church of Satan.
You just say edgy stuff. In the Church of Satan, you just sit in a circle and say, "Yeah, I hate old people. Yeah, let's kill kids and stuff. Yeah." And then you just leave. you have some pumpkin pie and then you leave.
Did come to this area and review his property just for the specific...
He had people to go over his property that were seen there. Many people from California.
I don't think that it was necessary.
Kittens are lame, bro.
I'm not going to say that they did not bless the property to the devil. I think they did. But I don't think that he felt the requirement of blessing the property with them. I think that it was just it was something that was done here.
Do you
These
think he
minions,
was a one-man show?
he was extremely a one-man show.
That's
We're
right.
talking about
The
a
devil loves pumpkin pie. That just proves how evil he is, because pumpkin pie is awful.
man who was the most radical psychopharmacology expert in this country. Of all the people that are highly involved with psychopharmacology in this country, this man was the most radical of all of them.
He was more involved.
Which means he could do more skateboard tricks.
With hallucinating drugs, the study of them and their effects on people, and mind control than anybody could ever imagine.
Much more so than anybody could imagine, because this man didn't do it out of a total scientific interest in the drugs or the chemicals alone. This man did it out of a total interest in the
human behavior.
Well, the psychological aspect of it, but basically the control of another man's soul. This is a man who perceived that the power to control the breath of life and the gift of God was one that could be ascertained by individuals in this lifetime without God's help.
Yes.
Through a different source.
You know, I've heard that from other people that he would say that, yes, I worship the devil. If you insist, I will show you and teach you the things that I know.
I'm scared.
But otherwise, I will not interfere with your religion, and you don't interfere with mine.
Oh, shit!
Did he really have plans to build a satanic church?
I mean, probably.
Some people seem to think so. Did he really dream of the day that he would set up a kingdom? Only
You can't call yourself medieval when you're just running around in the woods ass fucking. That's not quite medieval.
For Dr. Scudder often talked about the demon that followed him around, seems all the time, giving him his direction and power. He was even seen at times drinking blood, and his flesh would turn red.
Whoa.
He would talk about death.
Death. He talked about death. I just like how like hillbillies throw extra syllables in. He talked about death.
Was a subject that he seemed to live with. For even in a dream, he was shown a picture of his very own death.
Whoa.
With this dream staying on his mind so much, he painted this self-portrait depicting how he would die with 5 gunshot wounds in his skull.
He knew it.
Gagged.
This music stank, dude. Colbus, what do you think of this music?
Damn, dude.
Look, I got shot all up, huh? Oh, man! He predicted his day.
Ms. Lawrence, what I'm going to ask you to talk about tonight, I know is not pleasant for you. But in order to know the true picture of this story, I need to talk with you about your son. Tell me what Avery was like before this trouble came along.
Yes, I will do that, as long as you promise to stop ripping ass on my couch. I can't make that promise.
Well, Avery was a real good boy. He was raised in church. He always did what I asked him to do, you know, and he never was sassy. He's just a real good boy.
He was a good boy.
The only way I could describe him, you know. He'd get depressed sometimes, but he was always a good boy.
Boy. You're such a good boy.
Okay, how did he come to get involved with Dr. Scudder and Brock and all these others? How did that come to be?
I mean, Wes?
Pretty sure that was Dave Mustaine.
He just got off with some boys and got to riding around out on the mountain, and they run up on this castle out there, you know. And the man took them and showed them around, and
Zeke.
He was curious about
it was fucking Zeke.
How they lived.
Now, was this the first time?
Yeah, it's
the first time he went. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And then what did he come back and tell you about the place? How did he describe it to you?
He said that he had been to a place out on the mountain that nobody would believe. And I said, well, what do you mean nobody believe? He said, well, there was some men that lived out there, and they growed their own vegetables, and they had skeleton heads and different things. And I said, well, what kind of people are they? And he just described them as being funny. And he said,
Ass pounders.
you don't want to know about them. And then later on, then he was so curious about it till he invited my older daughter to go out with him. You know,
No! Don't
to
do
show
it.
her. And she said it was a real frightening, fearful sight that she seen when she got out there.
What did she say?
She said they had this house, a great big huge castle, which I don't think it's all that big, but it looked big to her, you know, and had all these devil symbols around, you know, and different things. And she said where it looked like an altar. And she described,
altar.
I guess they'd call that thing a gargle or however you pronounce it. But anyway, she said it was scary, and she was wanting to get away from there because said that, and said the man himself even looked like a devil. You know, she said he had the expression of a devil. When you go out, said when you went out there, you had to sign a book, give your name, you know, an address.
Tell me about
Oh, yeah,
this
that's
book.
good.
It was a little black book, and according to them, it had close to 300 or 400 names in it.
Sort of a guest book type thing.
Yeah, and everybody had to register when they went in.
I don't know about you guys, but I'm spooked.
Why?
I don't know why, you know, that he wanted to get in contact with them again later. That's what I thought later, you know.
Did she experience anything on the property, or did your son experience anything on this property?
Yeah, Zeke's ball bag.
She said you could feel a power, you know, just some kind of a eerie feeling, you know, a frightening feeling, that you felt real uneasy, you know, and you didn't want to be out there. That's the way she described it. But Avery, he enjoyed the flowers, you know, and seeing how they lived. And I don't know, as at that time, you know, where he had felt the feeling that she had felt. Of course.
Oh, he killed them. He killed all. He said, "Hey, I'm tired of you mountain fruits. Zeke, I'm gonna let you run away because your hot dog bun, your wiener and the hot dog bun trick made me laugh. So you can go, but everyone else, I'm gonna kill you."
Sandra had been saved, you know.
Your shit bucket's
And
full.
Avery had never really gotten saved, even though he'd been raised in church. And he'd been raised, you know, to know right from wrong. And I believe he knew that he shouldn't be out there. You know, he could feel that fear. But yet he was curious, like lots of young people are.
What did Avery say happened out there? What really happened out there at that place? What went on?
There's a little
the
fella
night
over
that
there.
the men were murdered.
Well, yeah, they are in any time. Did they have parties? Were drugs involved?
Yeah, he said they had a lab down in
You know,
under
spooky ghosts?
their house. You know, said this Dr. Scudder taking him a tour of his house. Said he had a library in there and
library?
Lots of witchcraft books, you know, and demology books, you know, all about Satan and the devil. And said he had a big picture of a man, and he said it was Satan. It was had a name of Satan on it, and he said, "This is my dad, my father."
Whoa.
He told my son. Said, "He's my father."
This Scudder guy was a college professor. You'd think he'd be done with all this wacky try-hard crap.
Avery said it had Satan wrote down at the
Satan.
bottom, you know.
What about Dr. Scudder's father? How old was he?
I believe
Oh.
he said he was 700 or 800 years old.
And how old did Dr. Scudder think he was?
I don't really know, but he just said that he was his son,
Yeah.
and that, you know, that they was going to build a church out there, a satanic church, and there'd be several come there to worship.
Did he talk about guests coming from out of town or anything like
Yeah,
that?
he talked like he had several visitors
Hanford.
from way off in different places,
It
and
was
he
Hanford.
was occasionally writing letters to the prisoners, you know, in prison, different prisons.
How was he going to use these prisoners?
I don't know. Without he was going to try to, you know, to get them when they got out to come out. They might have been.
You mean they
figuring on
had
building
Satan's blood there? Had your hot sauce.
more places for different people to live, you know, after they got settled. Of course, they'd been out there 7 years.
So he had plans to build a satanic church, a satanic temple there.
Hey, Coach, watch me put my penis in a hot dog bun. It looks like a hot dog.
Oh, that's rich, dude. That is rich.
On the
sure did.
property. Tell me about the night that the murder occurred.
Uh-oh.
What did your son say really happened?
Well, Avery had, you know, like I told you, come to get my rifle to go hunting, and this rifle was very special to him and to me because it belonged to his daddy, you know, that had died. And of course, it wasn't unusual for him, you know, to get the gun and go hunting because I'd always let them go hunting, you know. And they'd talked about going riding around. So they
were hunting for fruits.
Got my gun and put it in the car, you know, where it wouldn't get lost or nothing happened to it.
Sacred rifle.
And when they got out there, he said him and Teresa Hudgens and Tony West and Joey Wells, you know, all went out there just more or less to go out there to get some wine because this man furnished them with wine and I guess gave them drugs if they wanted them.
What a jerk.
And he didn't charge them anything for it, you know, just give it to them. And they didn't have any money at the time, so they'd figured that would be a good place, you know, to get some wine. So when they got out there, they said that Dr. Scudder had taken them up to this place they call a chicken house.
Not the chicken house.
In the bottom, he said they had chickens, and it had a little ladder going up, you know, like you climb up the side of a wall. And in the top was a room, and they called it a pink room. It was painted pink. And in there, they said they had mattresses, you know, and on one end, and a chair, and I believe an old tin stove up there. And then he gave them some wine, gave the boy and the girl wine in one bottle, and Avery and my son, Kenneth and West, they gave them another bottle to drink out of. And they drank theirs, and so he went to the house to get them another bottle. After they returned with the second bottle, then they started seeing lines, you know, and Avery described it as the house looked like it was on fire, the room did. It turned
You guys are ready to get your butts pounded out.
Real red. And West, I believe, described it, said that it looked like big lines were coming at him.
Well, you should have started running, you jerk.
I felt like they were drugged, you know. Or I don't see that they could have did any of this without being drugged.
Mm-hmm. What did West, did he think they were drugged too?
Yeah, he said they were drugged.
Had they ever had wine at Dr. Scudder's before?
No, Avery hadn't had it out there before, but he knew of the different kinds of wine that they made, and I thought it was illegal, you know, to make wine. But everybody knew that they made wine. They made wine out of watermelons and just most any kind of fruit. They made wines out of it, different kinds, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Little did they know they would be the fruit of honor.
All right, what happened? What did Avery tell you happened? Who shot, and what brought on all the shooting?
Avery said he went down to the house, went down first to the car, you know, and he said to check and see if the rifle was there. And then they got the rifle. He got the rifle out of the car and went down to the house where Odom was supposed to have been, the housekeeper, and the two dogs. He said he took the gun because he was afraid of the dogs, you know, afraid they were loose, and he didn't want them to get a hold of him. And he said at the time that he was going down there, you know, that he could feel, he could see different flashes in his eyes, and he said when he got there that it looked like that Odom had a gun, was getting a gun, and he thought that Odom was going to shoot him. And he told me, the way he told me, that he shot the dogs, and he didn't know where he hit Odom or not. And then later on, you know, he said he just didn't know where he did or where he did.
Mm-hmm. Nice one, idiots.
But the law, you know, down there said he did. So I don't really know. I don't believe he did.
Mm-hmm. Okay, what happened to Wes? What was he doing?
Wes was still up there with Scudder, and they said that they had tore up sheets and tied him, you know, where he wouldn't try to get loose. I don't know where they tied his hands behind him, but they said, someone told me that they toted him down the stairs, but they couldn't have done that because, you know, it being straight up and down, it had one been down at the bottom and had his feet. I don't know how they'd managed to get him down, but anyhow, he must have walked down by himself, you know. Of course, they'd had to hold him.
What a story.
I guess Wes held him by the shoulders or something.
Were they going to rob him or what? What was the motive?
They had said something about they might have planned to rob him, but they had no intentions of killing the men. Mm-hmm. And when they got down there, you see, Wes said he made a statement that he told Scudder not to get up, and that Scudder had seen Odom laying in the floor and mumbling. or doing something. Anyway, he got up to go across to him, and they said Wes shot him 3 or 4 or 5 times, however many times he shot him.
To the dome.
And they had to be drugged, because he made the statement, Wes did, you know, that when Odom started to cross there, that it looked like lions are coming at him, and with big teeth. And so naturally, anybody with a gun and see lions coming at them would go to shooting. And it was the drugs that they had that made their minds and their eyes see things.
What a clusterfuck. The whole thing a clusterfuck.
Wasn't really there. It would have to be.
Was there any drugs involved?
Oh, sure.
While you were there?
Oh.
No. No drugs. Did you see any evidence of any drugs about the place?
No.
What about the bottles of LSD that were found later? Did you know about those?
No, I didn't. I didn't see any
You didn't see
bottles of
them?
them.
Okay.
Sure,
So as far
lady.
as you know, there was no drugs.
Satanist.
No.
Did any of these 3 guys have
Spreading your cheeks for Zeke like a pig.
Joey or the others, Avery or West? Did they have any drugs? Did they bring any with them?
No, just that paint thinner that they had. Tony and Avery had it. Well, Avery had it.
Avery
But
had it.
Yeah,
But he brought it with him.
right. He didn't get it from
Does
Dr.
look like Jodie
Scudder.
Foster.
Do you think Dr. Scudder had anything in the wine?
No, I don't.
You think the bottle of wine that you drank from was the same as what they had?
Yes.
Exactly. What makes you say that?
Well, I don't think they was drugged up or anything, because they acted, I mean, just the way they acted just like I did, except for being scared. I mean, they had sense. I mean, they knew what they was talking about when they was talking. And one time Avery said, when he shot Dr. Scudder, he said, "Now tell me," and then he cussed, and then he said, "Now tell me that I don't have enough guts to kill somebody." And he was talking to Joey.
Oh, shit.
And they had it planned. They had it planned 3 or 4 days. Joey
Well, I
said-
mean, weirdo Satanists are kind of easy targets, you
on
know.
the witness stand in court that they had it planned 3 or 4 days
Man,
before
she asked for it on that pinball machine. You seen that?
it happened.
You are one of the people that knows what really happened at Dr. Scudder's home
Uh-oh.
the night of the murder. Taylor Ridge, we've mentioned it a lot of times. The town talked about it. But you're the one that actually knows what happened in that house. Had you ever been there before?
No, ma'am.
Did you know about Dr. Scudder?
No,
Never heard about him?
And where the
from
hell did you come from? Did you just teleport there?
anyone?
no.
Tell me about your date. Tell me how you happened to be at Dr. Scudder's the night that he was killed.
Well, I had a date with Joey Wells, and his mother
Oh, lucky lady.
came to my residence to pick me up. We went back to Joey Wells's house, and his car was tore up. Tony West and Avery Brock was there. He said we'd go riding around with them. So I said, fine. So we went and got in the car with Avery and Tony, and then we left and went down to the Red Barn in Hiles Valley, and they purchased $1 worth of gas. And then,
Righteous gas.
so we all got in the car from there, and we left to go to the mountain. And then they told me they was going to
That's right, the Joey Wells. He's bona fide.
go to these devil worshippers' house. That's when I first knew they was called devil worshippers, to drink
Hey,
wine. And
we're
then
going to
we
go visit the fruity devil worshippers.
was going to leave. So we was already in the car, was going towards the mountain. And then we just got to the mountain. Then Mr. Scudder came out to the car, and first thing he said was y'all guys have a cigarette. So Tony and Avery gave him a cigarette. Then he said we could all get out and go to the chicken coop.
Oh.
Well, he called
What
it
a
a
party.
guest house. So we all got out of the car, and we went to the chicken coop guest house. And Charles Scudder said we could all talk, sit down. Then Mr. Scudder said, let me go down and get some wine. So he went down the ladder
The goo shit, man. Smooch.
and went to the house or somewhere, I presume, and get the wine. Then he came back up,
And Zeke pulled his pecker out.
and he started passing out the bottles of wine. And then we were just sitting there, and then Avery said he wanted to go down and get some more wine, or
man, they
or
were
the
partying.
Toodaloo. I get confused about it. And then so Joey spoke up and said, "No," he said, "we don't need no Toodaloo." He said, "There's plenty here." So they was all just sitting around up there talking about this and that. I really don't know nothing, really. And then so Avery went down. Then he came back up, and then he had a rifle in his hand.
Oh, shit.
And then they started tying Mr. Scudder up.
Take that, you Satan's
on
fruit.
his mouth and asking where the money was and who all was in the house. And then,
But I thought that guy was a good boy.
Mr. Scudder said that Joey was in the house and the 2 dogs. So Avery went down the ladder, went in the house, and we heard several shots from the house as we was up in the guest house. And then then Avery come back up to the chicken coop and told us that the 2 dogs and Joey Odom was dead.
Even
so we
the
could all go
pup
in the house. So we all went down the ladder, and they led Mr. Scudder tied up and all down the ladder. And then we all went to the house, and then we opened the door up, and then there was Mr. Odom's body laying there. He's already been shot. Blood was all over him.
Poor little guy.
And then we stepped across his body, to get in the library, they called it. And there was 2 dogs laying beside a heater, and both of them was been shot and dead. They was dead. So we all sit down there, and Tony
They didn't kill Joey Wells, did they?
threw Mr. Scudder down on the couch and asked him where a soldering iron was and the money. Mr. Scudder said he didn't have a soldering iron because he didn't have any electricity. So then he said he didn't have any money. So Mr. Scudder just got up off the couch, and when he stepped up off the couch, Tony West told him if he didn't stop, he was going to shoot him. So Mr. Scudder just walked to his right, and when he did, Tony West shot him with a rifle twice in the head, 2 or 3 times in the head. Then he fell down. And then Tony told Avery and Joey to go upstairs and get the valuables or whatever they could find.
You spoke about Toodaloo.
Smooch. Lucky bastard. She's a filmmaker.
What is this?
I don't know. They said it was paint.
Toodaloo. What is this?
Toodaloo.
I don't know. They said it was paint thinner. Something that you inhale.
Wish I had some Toodaloo
So
right
it
now.
was some type of drug or hallucination type thing. Now, had you talked about Dr. Scudder was led over into the house.
Where's the paranormal?
Did he realize that Joey Odom was dead at this time?
He heard the shots too, and then Avery come back up and told us that the man was dead. Yes, he did.
All right, this was his friend.
Right.
How did he react when he knew he was dead?
We went into the house. He didn't say anything up in the guest house, but as we opened the door up and saw him laying there, Mr. Scudder just started nodding his head, and he was saying something. I couldn't understand what he was saying. It wasn't in my language or anything. I couldn't, you could tell he was upset and very
He was
hurt.
speaking in satanic stuff.
He saw that man laying there, shot.
Okay. You mentioned that Dr. Scudder was not talking in a language that you understood. What do you mean by this?
I don't know, just...
Was it a language that you had never heard that Dr. Scudder was mumbling?
Right, and it was painful. I mean, you could tell he was hurting.
Uh-huh. While all this was happening and all these many things were going on, did you at any time fear for your life?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you say anything to them? Please don't shoot me, or...
Yes, I said that. I said, I asked Joey, I asked him, was Tony going to kill me? He said, no, not as long as I do what they say and not go to the law. So,
yeah, don't go to the law.
Naturally, I just went on. I said I wouldn't go to the law, so they let me go. And then at one time when Avery, Brock...
Dude, you know that bitch is going straight to the law? You know she is.
And Joy Wells was upstairs trying to find whatever they was going to find. Tony tried to kiss me, and I told him to leave me alone, that I was with Joey. And Tony said, well, if you just do what we tell you to do, you'll be alive, we won't kill you. I said, if you don't, I said, we're going to kill you and leave you up here. And I was crying and everything. By the time Joey came back downstairs, and he just left me alone. He didn't try to bother me or anything.
Joey, you shirt. Hey, I'll see you guys later. Hey, have fun. Hey, call me later.
That pink room or the pleasure room. Was that a place where they went and they had sex?
I don't know.
Say
You'd never been there before?
No.
What'd you think about the house when you went through the house? Did it look strange to you?
Yes, it was very strange. No electricity in it, and it was real cold, except he had a wood heater in the library, and he had a real good fire in there, and there were strange pictures on the walls, skeletons, pictures of heads on the desk.
Heads?
It was just strange.
Yeah. Did you feel strange in there?
Yes.
What was Dr. Scudder's last words?
San Dimas High School football rules.
I asked for this.
What do you mean by that?
I don't know. When he stood up and right before Tony shot him, he said, I asked for this. I don't know what he meant.
Did he say another word after that?
Not that I can remember.
He fell there.
Right.
Teresa, this experience will probably live with you forever.
Yes.
You will relive it time and time again.
All right, lady.
Yes.
Don't rub it in.
But we're hoping that other young girls, just like you in this county, will never have to live through what you have.
So do I.
It's been a trying experience.
Wait, can we just talk about what a bum Joey Wells was? What a jerk. He just said, hey, I'll see you, lady.
What would you say to the young people that are out there, that are running around with the wrong crowd, that are doing the things that's going to get them in a lot of trouble?
I would say stay in school and take your vitamins and drink your milk.
If they don't change, what could you say to them if you could speak to the young people of the world?
Well, they should watch very carefully who their friends are.
And stay away from Joey Wells.
You can go off with the wrong crowd and not know it, just be going off and having a good time. Then as you go, it won't be such a great time like it happened to me. And
well, you're doing okay. You're not dead or anything.
When you go off and get mixed up with marijuana and stuff, you really don't know what's happening at the time. And you can get in something very dangerous and harmful to your own life.
Yeah.
And I had a little girl at home. She was 2 years old, and I should have been home with her instead of out trying to
You slut.
get high or whatever else.
Do you want her to get involved in what you were?
No, I don't.
How are you going to keep her out of it?
I'm going to talk to her the best way I can, teach
All
her
right, lady. Hey, I didn't do nothing. I was just there, okay? Why are you grilling me?
right from wrong, keep her away from drugs, and just hope that she'll listen to me.
Did your parents try to tell you?
Yes, they did.
You could be the next Joey Wells.
But you didn't listen.
No.
But you're listening now.
Yes, I was just young, just like all the other people out there are. I didn't understand what drugs could do to you. And it's just not the drugs, it's the people that you run around with. I just had a date and just wanting to go out and ride around and have fun, just like a normal teenager would. And then I went off and got myself mixed up in a murder. That had,
It happens, right?
Didn't have anything to do with it.
What about Joey? What's happened to him?
I don't know. I haven't seen him since.
He's still running in the mountains somewhere. He ditched his girlfriend and went running. And he was never heard from again.
It's happened once or twice.
So you don't know whether he's changed him or not?
No, I don't.
I hope it has.
I do too, for his sake.
Still in the mountains
The castle
somewhere.
stands in ruins now. The bodies have been taken away. Everyone is gone. But even now, the air is still filled with a strong, foul odor, and many flies seem to hover over this land.
That's Zeke.
Zeke shared with me many strange
Why
things.
is the
many things
Why is the whole house destroyed? What the hell happened?
that have happened since the deaths. What will happen to this estate?
Did someone burn it down?
No one seems to know. Who is looking after this land? That too is uncertain. But not long ago, something very strange happened. For it seemed that an image appeared in the upper window of one of the bedrooms.
Where?
If you will look very closely.
Oh shit, guys! Are you ready to get spooked?
You two can see an image which seems to be Dr. Scudder.
What?
He is gagged and is with his dog, looking out over his estate. What makes this picture so very strange
Oh, little crocky
is there's
shit.
a dog leash that seems to be hanging out the window.
Whoa.
Can this really happen? Can he come back from the dead?
I'm pretty sure that's his branches.
Only through demonic trickery used to deceive you can this happen. But demons, my friend, are very real. And they can project an image to look like someone who has died.
Shit.
But be not deceived by an angel of darkness.
Oh, that was spooky, guys. It looked like an alien? It might be an alien. Dog leash. Dog
The last
leash.
words of Dr. Scudder's were, I knew this would happen.
No, it was I asked for this. Don't you remember? That was like 5 minutes ago.
I wonder what he meant by that. I wonder if he and Joey found the peace that they were looking for in life or
And in
death.
death.
Many are searching for life's answers. They're searching through astrology, Christian Scientists, TM, satanic worship. But after they've reached the
Oh
end,
man, what is this
they
shit?
find that they have been led by a lie. Do not be deceived, for God is the only truth. He can make your future certain. He can turn your darkness into day, and he will give you all the power,
Snakes rule.
for he is real. Dr. Scudder seemed to be a druid, a man who lived off the land and worshiped the earth and trees.
Yeah, I'm not watching
Yes,
that.
it is true that God made the trees, but the real victory comes when we worship the man who was nailed
Are you saying Joey Wales? Was Joey from New Jersey?
to the tree. While walking over this estate, I found a very strange tree. A tree that had an altar right beneath it.
Oh shit.
And as I stood off and looked at this tree, it looked like a cross that had been turned upside down. And I had to say a word to the true and living God, the God who made heaven and earth.
Where's the
and
altar?
You and me.
And
I
me.
prayed a prayer right on that altar.
Wow.
Father, on this land,
No, I don't want churchy
you
stuff.
made thousands of
No
years
offense
ago.
to churchy stuff, people. But this ain't about churchy stuff. Now what the hell do I do? Now what? I don't want to watch churchy stuff. It's all churchy stuff now. Motherfucker. I'll have to find something short. Damn it. I'm still pissed at Joey Wales. Motherfucker. We'll have to dig something up. Come on, give me something good. I got stuff lined up, but it's like all shit that's like 3 hours fucking long. Hold on, I'm looking. Everyone. Hey, if you gotta drop a deuce, now's the time to do it, guys. So you can't find anything good on YouTube anymore. Everything's over an hour. Oh, what else sucks? Sucks peckers. That was funny because it was all hillbillies and shit. Alright. This is probably going to suck, but I had to pull it out of my ass. This is Most haunted locations of Wisconsin.
I'm Chad Lewis. I'll be your presenter this evening. And even
Sorry,
though
guys.
my background
I didn't know the last hour was fucking churchy stuff. You know what I
in the
mean?
field of psychology, for the last 20 plus years, I've been traveling the world in search of the strange and unusual. Everything from hunting for vampires over in Transylvania, looking for the Loch Ness Monster, crop circles, UFOs,
It's the Chad.
alien abductions, weird people, weird places, you name it, is just strange, bizarre, and unusual. I've traveled around the world in search of it. They also have a Paradise
He just
Michigan.
means he's been around Wisconsin a few times. No one actually leaves Wisconsin. Being born in Wisconsin is a death sentence. You're there forever.
Pick which one you want to go to. But tonight we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics, and that is ghosts and haunted locations. Now, just by a show of your hands, how many of you have seen a program on TV about ghosts and hauntings?
Oh, I have.
Nearly all of you. And it is fun to hear about these places when they're in New York or Texas, but it's a much different matter when these places are right in your own backyard.
Because Mondays are dank, dude.
So that's what we're going to explore tonight. Some of Wisconsin's most haunted places. For the next 45 minutes, we'll take a tour of the entire state, ending up right back here in town. Now, I'm going to give you the background of these cases, the folklore, the eyewitness accounts. I'll even talk about some of the equipment that we use on our investigations.
Who's going to do a spirit session or whatever they're called for Jamie Nicole? There's a Jamie Nicole out there. Yes, you fucking idiot.
These places. Heck, I'll even provide you with the directions to these places. But I'm going to leave it up to each and every one of you to travel to these places on your own and determine for yourself whether
I would never go to Wisconsin on purpose.
or not you believe they're haunted. But I should warn you, it's much easier watching these places on television than it is visiting. When you're out in the middle of nowhere and you see that shadowy creature lurking
Shadowy
from
creature?
tree to tree,
That's just Zeke.
you simply can't turn to another channel and forget all about it. So with that in mind, let's explore some of the
You don't belong here.
scariest places in Wisconsin. And when I talk about some of the scariest places here in our state, I'm not referring to the Packer Bears
That's the
game.
devil's cheese.
This might be the scariest thing you'll see tonight. I'm talking places that people think are haunted with ghosts, spirits, and apparitions. Now, for a lot of people, when they think of a haunted place, they think of a cemetery. Reason being is quite simple. Back when cemeteries were chosen,
I saw Jamie Nicole appear between my ample bosoms.
the land was thought to serve as a portal between our world and the spirit world. So when your loved one passed on, it would just be easier for them to travel from our world to whatever world you believe they go to. But regardless of whether or not
Why are you here, guys? Don't you have anything better to do?
you believe this theory, the people in Appleton at Riverside Cemetery,
Oh.
they think it's working in reverse. That the living are not moving to the dead, but the dead are coming into our world.
No.
All the stories revolve around...
If you were dead, why would you come back? And if you were dead, why did... All right, imagine you're a spooky ghost. Why would you hang around a cemetery? It doesn't make any sense. If I'm a ghost, I'm going all over the place. Why would you stay in the cemetery? What, are you going to bird watch forever?
the
That would suck
gravestone
peckers.
of this young woman. Her name was Kate Blood. And when she was alive, it was said that she murdered her husband and their 3 young children. Therefore, she would not be allowed burial inside the cemetery proper. And it's true, she's down by the river all by herself, very secluded. If you were not looking for her, you probably wouldn't find her. But that's
Yeah,
not the
if I died in Wisconsin, the first thing I'm doing when I'm dead is leaving Wisconsin.
scary part. The scary part comes in the fact that many people who visit her gravestone often report seeing what appears to be some sort of hooded, cloaked, black, dark figure standing behind the gravestone. When they try to get a closer look to make out who or what this thing might be, it simply vanishes right before their eyes.
No.
But my
Prove
favorite
it.
part of the story is the dare. A lot of these haunted places have dares attached to them. You have to do something in order for the dare to come true. And the dare here is that if you go to the cemetery at night, of course.
Yeah, like if you were a ghost, would you hang out in a dark basement?
And if you walk up to the
I would people watch at Walmart. If I was a ghost, that's what I'd do. I'd have a seat at Walmart and people watch.
Gravestone, you will see what appears to be blood oozing out of the gravestone. I say it appears to be oozing out because witnesses I've spoken with told me that when they went to touch it, it was dry to the touch, even though they swore it was blood coming out of this gravestone. So I spent months and months and months researching this case to find out that Kate Blood did not murder her husband. Well, actually, I just read the tombstone. You can see here that her husband lived much longer than she did.
Oh, we've been bamboozled.
The dead children are the graves of Kate, her husband, and her husband's second wife. When I dug up her obituary, it listed her as a great loving mother who would be missed in the community. So even though the story's not quite right, the legend still continues. In fact, many people who walk along the old trail that leads to the Stations of the Cross along the river report seeing disembodied balls of light floating around.
Those are seek balls.
Out of the corner of their eye somebody walking by. They'll hear weird noises. So even though the legend is a little off, the stories still continue. But my favorite cemetery in all of Wisconsin is in Green Lake.
Dude, you're too old for cemeteries.
Dartford Cemetery. A lot of people.
You know, like if you're older than 21 and still going to cemeteries.
Heard of this place.
Even 21's kind of sad. You know what I mean? You do that shit when you're a teenager.
A few years ago, we did a program on the Discovery Channel called A Haunting that featured this cemetery. For decades, people talked about this cemetery being haunted. Oftentimes, people would be walking by the cemetery late at night when all of a sudden they would see what appeared to be the ghostly images of young children walking throughout the cemetery.
These are fake photos, dude.
Sometimes they'll see them in periods of the year when they're not properly dressed. Wondering why kids are out in the cemetery at such a late hour, witnesses will try to go closer only to have these phantom children disappear. In fact, when I first went there, I had some psychics with me who claimed that as soon as
and you don't get much sadder than Cobes.
They were being pinched and pulled at on their leg by a playful spirit of a child. We had collected so many stories of these children laughing and giggling.
You're playing sound effects, dude.
Phantom noises.
I could do that too.
Hey, you got nice
a ton of recording equipment with us, hoping that on the days and nights we were there,
I'm finally gonna catch my big ghost break.
Capture these phantom sounds of the kids playing. Unfortunately, the entire time we were there, not a peep. But we did discover other legends.
You mean you discovered shit?
In fact,
of course.
many people paying their respects to their loved ones will often see what appears to be the ghost of a Native American man dressed in full Native regalia.
Dances with whiskey.
Walking through the cemetery.
I'm
It's a
dances
small
with whiskey.
cemetery in a rural
You are about to go on a secret journey.
area, so he obviously sticks out. People will follow him and watch him only to report that he always disappears right over this gravestone. It's the grave of a former chief who drowned.
Oh yeah, Chief High Knocker.
Buried on his land, and then for some reason he was dug up, brought to Dartford, and reburied. Many believe it's his spirit wandering around as well.
I loves me some
And I talk
knockers,
about
man.
this case quite a bit. People like to go there for their own experiences. Oftentimes they send me photos of their experiences, including this group that went there, wanted to take a photograph of the cemetery, and had a weird mist or
Dude, it's either you're smoking a cigarette or your breath. Get out of here with that shit.
fog appear on their
It's your
camera
breath.
that they did not see with the naked eye. But the dare gets even better here at Dartford Cemetery.
Uh-oh.
The dare is that you need to find the haunted mausoleum. Don't
I like
worry,
orbs. Orbs is the biggest shit ever. It's just a dust particle. It's orbs.
it's the only mausoleum in the cemetery.
Chief
The
Huge
dare
Knockers.
is that if you're brave enough or foolish enough to stand or sit on top of this mausoleum, you'll be shoved to the ground by the angry spirits
Good, because that's just rude.
Of those who are buried alive inside that mausoleum. A few years back, I spoke with a group of young teenagers. One was a football player who told me
Jamie Nicole, she'd be pancake knockers.
that he was up on the mausoleum one night. His buddies were down.
Get off there.
When all of a sudden, someone or something shoved him from behind so hard he barely had time to extend his arms to break his fall. The
Take that, you
mausoleum
little shit.
sits about 6.5 feet in height, so whatever pushed him had to have a lot of strength behind it. But I know what you're thinking. This is nothing more than teenagers with their imagination. A few years back, I spoke in Green Lake. After the program, a woman came up to me and said, "Chad, I sat out on that mausoleum last night. I wasn't pushed to the ground. In fact," she said, "I don't even think it's haunted."
I wish Buddy Lembeck would come to my house and speak about ghosts. That'd be cool.
I was relieved because this woman was out in her 70s out there looking to get shoved to the ground by angry spirits. The legend is that they were angry because they were buried alive. We found no indication whether this is true or not. So it begs the question, was anyone ever buried alive?
Any
Is
more
it
real
anything
photos?
more than an urban legend? Well, yes, we know thousands of people were buried alive. We know this because we have thousands of newspaper accounts
Poor little guy.
from the late 1800s, early 1900s. Now, back then, whether you were in a diabetic shock or in a coma,
Just throw him in the dirt.
doctors would often pronounce you dead. But lo and behold, many people, some of which were even at their own funeral, would pop up just in the nick of time
Hey guys, how's it going?
to be saved from being buried alive. The idea of being buried alive may seem a little silly to us today with modern science and medicine.
Well, also, they fucking pull your brain out out of your head and all your organs. There's no way you're standing up after
Our
that.
great-grandparents were so afraid of being buried alive.
Hey, if I die, can you guys just leave my brain in my skull and my organs?
They came up with several inventions. My favorite is this. It's called a cemetery bell. And it does or did exactly what it looks like it would do. It was a bell that would sit on top of your grave with a rope on a pole going down into your casket.
Whoa.
So if you awoke in
Abraham Lincoln had one of those?
time and found yourself buried alive, you could just tug that rope, it would ring the bell, and alert the caretaker who lived there that you were buried alive and they could come and rescue you. But there was one problem with this invention, though. On many nights, the wind would set these bells off, giving the caretaker quite a scare, thinking everyone had been buried alive. There's a lot of argument over the origin of the saying.
Yeah, I want my brain. Leave my brains in my
The
head.
bell. Many contend it's a boxing expression. Others say it dates back even further, where many believe it was literally being saved by this bell. Because for several nights after you died, your family would sit around your grave making sure you were truly dead. They'd be working the graveyard shift, and if they heard you ring the bell, you became a dead ringer.
Whoa, that's where that came from.
Let's move on.
I learned something today, guys.
Believe it or not, one of the most commonly asked questions I get is, where can I go to spend the night in a haunted place?
And the second most question I get is, what does semen taste like?
Well, if you have that macabre sense of adventure, you're in luck. In Wisconsin, we have hotels, motels, campgrounds, B&Bs that all have a haunted
Wish I had some
story
sweet
to
rock
them.
parties.
One of my favorite places to go is over in Milwaukee, a place called the Ambassador Hotel.
Now that's class.
Today, this place is a very fine, upscale, classy place to spend the night.
Only
But
rich and
back
Rel
in
could
the
afford
80s,
it.
it was a cesspool. They rented rooms out to drug dealers, prostitutes, pimps, criminals. They even rented rooms out to serial killers. Dahmer himself stayed there on many occasions.
Occasions.
And then one night back in 1987,
Oh, that cool dude.
Dahmer was out partying at a bar. He picked up this gentleman, brought him back to his room at the Ambassador. There, they fell asleep drinking. Dahmer woke up the next morning. This man was dead. Dahmer said he had no recollection as to what happened. But instead of going to the police and explaining the accident, Dahmer did what most of us would do. He went out and bought the biggest trunk he could find, came back, chopped that man up and put him in the trunk.
Hey, sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do.
Brought the trunk to his grandmother's house where he lost track of where it went. We don't know. It might be in your attic or your basement right now. Dahmer didn't know where it went. But since that time, many people have had unexplained things happen at the Ambassador Hotel. Oftentimes, someone will call down to the front desk complaining that it sounds like two men are fighting to the death next to them. Oftentimes, the staff have to tell them they have no one next to
Whatever,
them.
dude.
At least not anyone who's alive. Others
Whatever.
will see the ghostly image of a man covered in blood walking through the hallways.
Yeah, any pictures?
And he'll disappear right into the walls. It's thought to be one of Dahmer's victims.
Oh, he would totally pick up Relt, dude. Relt would be an afternoon snack for Dahmer.
We don't know how many people he actually killed in this hotel. Others
Relt would have been an hors d'oeuvre.
have seen Dahmer's spirit walking through the main lobby before disappearing right before their eyes. When I went there,
They'd find Relt's head in the refrigerator. Hey, it looks just like it always does, with that blank expression. Maybe he's still alive.
they didn't have much to say about Dahmer's history. Not because they didn't want to talk about it, which they didn't, but because they really didn't have the information. It was under brand new management, and you can imagine...
But the blood was brown.
You're renting rooms out to drug dealers and serial killers. Record keeping's not the best of your abilities. So we don't actually know what room Dahmer stayed in. And even if we did, the place has been renovated so many times that it's probably a different room today. So my advice to you is every time you stay there, pick a new room, thereby increasing your chances of staying where Dahmer stayed.
Dahmer would just throw Relt in the air and catch him in his mouth.
So many years ago. Just down the road from here is a great place with a great dare. It's outside of Evansville. It's called Weary Road. Legend is that
I'm wary of
old
this
man
guy.
Weary murdered a bunch of his children, or some variation of that story. The townsfolk may or may not burn down his house, and he died, and now he wants this old stretch of road
Mechanically separated Relt.
where his farmstead used to be. Many people driving down this small stretch of road will be overcome with the sense that they shouldn't be there, almost as though it's a zone of fear. And judging by the amount of
It was probably Hanford.
graffiti you see here, it's heavily visited by younger teenagers.
Well, look at that cool
So
dude.
the story is that if you go out here, old man Weary will chase you. People have seen weird things, little creatures in the trees and the like.
Whoa.
It is said that old man Weary will chase you coming up from under the small bridge. The dare is that if you park your car on the bridge and turn it off, when you go to turn it back on, you will not be able to start it up, and old man Weary will come running after you until you can get out of that area. Everyone who's ever seen old man Weary has told me he's approached from behind, chasing them.
It's old man
Very
Weary.
rare is it that old man Weary will come up from the front. I just recently spoke to a woman who was out at Weary Road many years ago with her friends, and as soon as they got out on the road, they felt like they shouldn't be there. And a huge fog started to roll in over the road. And as they sat there by the bridge debating whether they should get the heck out of there, they noticed right off on the side of the road this giant creature.
Pophams.
She said it was the size of a bear, but shaped more like a wolf. It had glowing yellow eyes. She immediately tore off out of the area because she had the sense that even though she was in her vehicle, that if she would have stayed there, this creature would have killed her. It's very common for people that
Yeah, I was huffing paint, but what difference does it make? It was a ghost.
to have an unnatural sense of fear that their life is in danger, even if they're in their vehicle.
That fat bitch in the front with the walker. I'm getting front row now. I want to see my special ghost presentation. Everyone get behind me now. The lady in the striped shirt has a nose pin, or a clothespin on her nose.
Driving away from these creatures.
I never missed a ghosty talk.
Go to Weary Road and see if this creature will attack you. Probably not. Maybe not.
She stops the speech mid-sentence. Excuse me, Mr. Presentation Guy. Could you get me some sweet drink?
No. Let me know.
Old man
Anyone
Quarry.
here from Stevens Point? No? Good. Then you won't have to worry about avoiding this place. It's called Highway 66.
Whoa.
Except the people in Stevens Point, they don't call it that. They call it Bloody Bride Bridge.
No, no one ever called it that, you cheesy guy. You cheesy fuck.
Many years ago, a young woman was coming home on her wedding night. She was involved in a car accident on this bridge, and she bled to death, waiting for help to arrive.
Poor little guy.
And since that moment, many unsuspecting motorists driving down the road will often catch sight of what appears to be a woman dressed in a bloody bridal gown on the side of the road. They'll often think,
why would you hang out by the bridge? I'm dead. I guess I'll just hang out around this bridge forever.
Maybe she broke down or needs some assistance, so they slow down only to have her disappear right before their eyes. One of the first witnesses was said to be a police officer driving over the bridge late at night when this woman popped out of nowhere. He slammed on his brakes, closed his eyes, and braced for impact. Once he came to a screeching halt, he got out to see the damage, only to find that nobody was there. He scoured the area, convinced
Hey, Stillborn, are you saying she gets the pepperoni feast?
that he had actually hit somebody, flesh and blood, but nobody was there.
Get out of
But
here.
the dare gets even better.
Uh-oh.
The dare states that if you park your car on this bridge, when you look into your back mirror, not only will you see the ghost of that bloody bride, but many witnesses have told me that the bride was actually sitting right in their back seat when they looked in their mirror. Luckily or unluckily for me, the dozen or so times I've waited for her, she has not appeared for me.
You think there, little feller? You think that might just be a story to scare little teenagers? Teeny boppers? You think that might just be a story to scare teeny boppers there?
But if you do
I tried it several times and I've never seen her.
take this dare, make sure the road is completely dead of cars because it's a busy bridge. I would hate for you to end up in my next program because you were in an accident on that bridge. But she's not the only hitchhiking woman on the side of the road. In fact, one of the first cases I ever investigated 20 plus years ago, right outside of my hometown of Eau Claire, is a small little place called Elk Lake Dam. It's right outside of Eau Claire, beautiful little place. And one night, don't worry, there's nothing to see here, two men were sitting right here enjoying the beautiful waterfall. It's a gorgeous rural area. When right here, one of them looked around, turned back, and saw what appeared to be a glowing woman in white standing behind him.
This is the lamest paranormal thing I've ever seen. Now, just one picture of smoke. That's all we got. One picture of smoke.
And said, "Hey, do you know there's a glowing woman behind us?" His buddy said, "Yep, but I'm too afraid to turn around and look." About a half hour went by. They finally got the collective courage to turn around and look. The woman was gone. So were the two men. They hightailed it out of there as fast as they could. One of them was so frightened he refused to bring us back to this location.
And he might have soiled himself.
The other one agreed to bring me back. At the time, I was a UW Stout student, and one of my cohorts in the psychology program was a young man named Aaron. He believed he was psychic. He could pick up on these spirits. So I brought him along,
Psychic.
and while we were there...
Whenever you hear the term psychic, that means they have no evidence. Psychic means no evidence.
Aaron and I wanted to take a photograph of one another.
Just remember, if you watch a ghost show and they bring a psychic on, that means you're not getting shit. You might as well change the channel.
Where the two men would have been sitting that evening. But you can see here his camera would not work. Worked later, it worked before, but it would not snap a photo.
Whoa.
I snapped a photo, and when the film came back when people
It caught my
actually
breath.
Film, we noticed this weird mist or fog that wasn't visible to the naked eye. At least not when I snapped the photo. So I started talking about this case, and after a program, a gentleman came up to me and told me that he lived out in this area in the 1970s. He recalled there was a murder out there, but that's all he could remember. So I started flipping through my local newspaper in the year 1970 through 1970, day by day, looking for a murder. Unfortunately, by the time I reached 1974, I realized the man was right. There was a murder of a person out there, but not just any nameless, faceless person. This person. Her name was Mary. She was hitchhiking from Minneapolis to Chicago. Last seen being picked up on the side of the road by this.
It's fucking Cool Taste. I knew it. I told you not to get a ride with Cool Taste.
Gentleman who was last seen kicking leaves and snow and dirt over something on the side of the road. The rural neighborhood thought it was suspicious. They called the police. By the time the police got there, the man was gone. The body of Mary was on the ground. She had been stabbed to death.
Poor little guy.
Even though they had a witness description of the man, he was never captured and the case went unsolved.
It's Cool Taste.
Well, now I decided to go back. This place was haunted. Maybe it was haunted by this young Mary. I brought Aaron the psychic with me. He wanted me to take a photograph of this pillar, which I did. I took dozens that night. This was the only one out of the ordinary that came back with something on it.
Or just anything.
It was also here, we heard the strange sound of what appeared to be a woman screaming. But it didn't quite sound human, but it wasn't machine-like either. And of course, it didn't record on any of our audio recorders. But as we were leaving, Aaron believed that the spirit of this woman was going to try to follow us back to the university. So he snapped one last photograph.
Oh, what'd you get?
And I'll let you decide whether or not she was trying to follow us back. Because when the film came back, this is what appeared on the film.
It's your breath, you asshole. How many times have people had to have it explained to them that it's your breath or like the camera strap? They'll catch the camera strap in the photo.
Seen shapes and shadows in the light on this film. But the good news is that so many people have gone here to see the ghost of Mary. So many media outlets have covered this story that the Dunn County Sheriff's Department reopened the case into the murder of young Mary. They even dug up her grave looking for DNA evidence, which they did not find.
Someone mega beefed and caught it on film.
But keep in mind, this was only 44 years ago. The killer was never apprehended.
Cobra, no one cares about gender relations. Come on, Peaches. We're out of here. Bye, Cool Taste.
I often wonder if he's ever come to one of my lectures and seen his grisly deeds.
No one in their right mind would go to your lecture. Even a killer would say, hey, I got better stuff to do.
On the screen. So you may want to see who you're seated next to tonight. And maybe we could solve this
Stillborn
case
knows. He's caught his breath in pictures.
and give this young woman some rest. I love cases like this because not only do you get a haunted story here, you get a bonus as well. And you'll see what I mean. This is a place called Mary Dean. It is an island out near Menominee, Wisconsin.
Oh.
The entire town lived out on an island. It's named after a young girl by the name of Mary Dean, who it was said she drowned while coming up on an old steamship.
Hi, I'm Myra Dean.
And they buried her on the island on an unmarked grave.
Get buried,
At one point, an entire town lived out on this island. They had a post office and stores. The only way to get there was by ferry. But many people believe that it's still haunted by Mary Dean.
Which is ironic because they called me Fairy in high school.
Many people go there to take the dare. So what is the dare of Mary Dean? Well...
What an awful name, Mary Dean. I picture her with a sweet mullet and droopy titties.
Take a look.
Uh-oh.
I'm here at the boat landing of Mary...
It's raw! Guys, you ready for some ghost proofitudes? Let's do it.
Where the dare is that if you're foolish enough to go into the water, the vengeful spirit of Mary Dean will try to pull you under and you'll meet your watery grave and spend eternity in the river with Mary Dean. So I'm going to take this dare right now.
It's the worst name ever.
No life jacket, no swimming apparel, just me versus Mary Dean.
All right, Mary Dean, I'm rooting for you, dude. You got one chance at this. You listen, Mary Dean? You take this fucker under. Come on. It's all up to you, Mary Dean.
So let's see how this goes. I know you're all wondering if I survive or not, but... So I'll walk out, it'll get deep and then shallow and then deep as I make my way to the middle. I love this because you can camp out on the island. You don't need to register, you don't need to pay, you can just go out there and throw your camp gear there. I also did this dare at night, but it didn't look quite as great, so I did it in the day. If you didn't catch it, many people claim that they hear her say things like, "Help me, I'm drowning, save me, come out and rescue me." And then those who do are said to get sucked into the current and drown. There have been numerous
Mary Dean, you have one job, dude.
Out on this river. Every year, several people claim that they were simply drawn to the river for some unknown reason.
Yeah, because it's water. We're drawn to this river.
Waiting for Mary Dean to pull me under. So I sit out there for quite some time. She doesn't pull me under. I make my way back.
Stupid Mary Dean. What a
Well,
bitch.
thankfully, the spirit of Mary Dean did not pull me under into those dark, churning, cold waters of the river. So another dare completed. With the weather we've been having this year, you could probably get there.
Hey, asshole, if you're going to use a projector, can you turn the fucking lights off? Good dick.
And try the dare when the water's still warm. In fact, if you want to see more dares, go to my website. I've done dozens of dares around the world.
I'm good, dude.
You don't have to risk your life doing them. You can watch some crazy person risk their life. But the story gets even better here, if you can believe that. Because it was said that when the island was inhabited, one of the men had some dogs, and those dogs mauled some children and had to be put to death. And now the legend is that when you go there to see the ghost of Mary Dean, you might encounter what many witnesses are calling the hellhounds of Mary Dean.
Not the hellhounds.
Black dogs with glowing red or green eyes. They've been reported throughout culture in nearly every country in the world. Many people believe that these are do the devil's bidding.
That old bag with the cotton ball head is looking at her phone. She's bored already.
They are a harbinger of death, meaning that if you see a hellhound, much like seeing or hearing the Irish banshee, it means you or someone you know is going to die very shortly. But just to show you we're not the only weird people to believe in hellhounds, a few years back I was over in the country of Belize, going through their forests and their jungles there. Here I am looking for a diminutive creature that they call the Tata Duende.
That's a cool dude. Looks just like a leprechaun. Why is his feet backwards? His feet are backwards.
A protector of their jungle. And everywhere we went, villagers said, you better get back to town before nightfall. Because if you don't get back to the village before the sun goes down,
Watching the pizza
you might
tracker.
encounter one of our hellhounds. They called them cadeos. And they believed that these creatures had supernatural powers, that they could take your sight, your hearing, or your life. And that if they connected with you, unless you could find a powerful shaman
Yeah, this is bad.
or a bush doctor,
I'm sorry, I had to pull it out of my ass.
dead within a week of seeing these creatures. So being the researchers that we were, we made it a point to stay out past dark every night, and luckily I'm still here today. But back to the boat landing of Mary Dean.
I don't know about
After a
that.
program I did one day, a gentleman came up to me. He was a big, burly biker guy. You know, the type of guy you wouldn't think would get spooked by anything. He told me him and his buddies took their motorcycles out here to see the ghost of Mary Dean. They had no idea about the hellhound story. But as soon as they got there, he said they were surrounded by hellhounds. When I asked him why he thought they were hellhounds and not just wild dogs, he said 3 things stood out. One,
I'd be so mad if I was sitting there. Like, even right now, I'm thinking, like, how do I get out of here?
glowing red eyes. 2,
You
they
guys
were
suck.
nearly transparent. He could almost see right through them. And 3, no matter how fast they went on their motorcycles to get away, these creatures kept up with them. It wasn't until he went to kick one and his big biker boot went through it that they finally disappeared.
Whoa.
He told me they did not quit driving until they hit the safety of Chippewa Falls, which is about 20 miles away.
Yeah, you can't get... that's home base. Hellhounds.
Ask if they toured the Liney's Brewery after that, but they probably should have. But these seem to be portals where not only hauntings, but creatures seem to lurk. Another example of that is the aptly named Devil's Punch Bowl, right outside of UW Stout in Wisconsin.
Every place in Wisconsin just has like a name like that. This is the Devil's Shit Bucket.
For years, people have seen mysterious balls of light similar to these floating through the area, changing in size, shape, and color.
And this part is where we call Satan's asshole.
I spoke with a group of young men.
Don't go to Satan's asshole.
Who were sitting here, teenagers, one night, debating whether they should go down into the punch bowl, when all of a sudden a ball of light came toward their car. They told me their ball of light actually entered inside their car.
What
and
the
I
fuck?
asked them, I said, well, what did you do when that ball of light came into your car?
I shit my pants.
These
What do you
young
think?
guys all looked at me as though I was crazy. They said, we got out of the car. Pretty common response, but if you do get out, go down to the punch bowl. People have seen apparitions down here. They've heard weird voices and chanting. It's thought to be a sacred area for the first native peoples of the area. But my favorite story here is a woman was out hiking with her young son. They were about to leave up the staircase right here when she took one last look back at the waterfall. And when she did, she noticed something was staring back at her.
Hey, bitch, you want to go to the Devil's Punch Bowl?
What she saw sitting on the waterfall...
We don't have to do anal, do we? Yes. All right.
...was, well, maybe I'd better let you just take a look.
Uh-oh.
This creature! She reported it straight out of folklore.
That's that bitch who played the waitress on Cheers.
3 feet tall, pointed ears, pointed cap. You know, something out of leprechaun, gnome, goblin, the little people, the hidden people, the good folk, sprites, spirits, you name it. That's what she saw. She immediately grabbed her son and said, hey, do you see this creature? And by the time the son spun around, the creature either ran into the woods or through the tunnel.
Whoa.
It wouldn't be long later when a UW Stout student, he was a football player, took his girlfriend down to the punch bowl during Halloween time. He wanted to really scare her, to get her into the mood for Halloween. And they got about halfway down the stairs.
This whole thing's stupid.
When they both heard a growl from a creature.
Yeah, Rhea Perlman. That's it. I was just Rhea Perlman.
And his plan worked, except it wasn't the girlfriend who got scared. The football player ran back to the parking lot. I spoke with this young girl who told me she sat there for another 15 minutes hoping that the creature would make another sound or appear, but then she felt bad and had to go rescue her boyfriend.
This never
now,
happened.
over in Ireland, when I go into the pubs, they believe that these creatures had supernatural powers, that when you go looking for them, they advise that you bring an offering with you, whether it's some candy, a shiny rock, some tobacco, something that will make it so the little people will not curse you when you go looking for them. Many cultures have the belief that when you go looking for the weird comes looking for you.
Rhea Perlman, I brought you some snipe tobacco.
That's not what your mom said last night when I fucked her with this dick.
Oh, jeez. All right, dude.
Cultures won't even utter the name of some creatures because that's enough to put you on their radar. In fact, when I was hunting for the Tata Duende, everyone I talked to said, why are you looking for this creature? Do not try to find it. We try to avoid it. But I want you to keep in mind that not all monsters in Wisconsin look like this. In fact, some monsters in Wisconsin are even scarier than this. Because some monsters in our state, yeah, very scary. Some monsters in our state, those monsters look a little bit more like this. Anyone recognize this gentleman?
Oh, come on.
Very good. Ed Gein, the butcher of Plainfield, Wisconsin.
Didn't he only kill like one person?
Forgot Ed's story back in the 1950s. You might recall some of the movies they based on his life, including that of Psycho, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Silence of the Lambs, and many, many others. Now, most people just remember Ed as a murderer, and true he was. He killed 2 people that we know of.
2 people.
But probably half a dozen more, including his own brother. But before he was captured, Ed was well-liked in Plainfield. Odd, but well-liked. He would babysit for kids, and he'd bring his neighbors over what he called a venison stew for them to eat.
Oh,
I
no.
had one neighbor tell me that he remembered his mother getting this stew. It had such an awful smell to it that she threw it away. Good thing for her, because even though Ed was a murderer, his real passion was to wait until it got dark. Then, for over a decade, he would fire up his vehicle.
I didn't think he killed that many people.
And head down to the nearby cemeteries where he would dig up the bodies of women that reminded him of his own deceased mother. He would then bring those remains back to his farmhouse. He lived in squalor, and he would turn them into lampshades and furniture and the like. There's some young folks here in the audience tonight, so I'm going to skip some of the stuff that Gein did. If you'd rather not sleep tonight, you can Google Ed Gein.
He played a sweet guitar.
Don't do it, you'll be cursing my name all night. He had a human heart on the stove. He had a belt adorned with women's body parts. The first people
Hey, this is my snatch belt.
Came in, found skulls all over that he was using as candlestick holders. Again, we won't even get into his bedroom antics. But when Ed really got a bug in his system, what he would do is make an entire outfit of this material, and he would wear it like a demented Halloween costume as he danced under the moonlight in his front yard. But you see, when we finally caught Gein and discovered truly how evil he was, they wanted to open his house as a roadside attraction, a museum of horrors that you could pay to go and visit. But before they were able to do so, it mysteriously burned to the ground.
Oh, just someone got pissed and torched it. What do you mean mysteriously?
Well,
the townsfolk got angry.
Torched it, allegedly.
Yeah, no shit.
But even though the home's gone, many believe Gein has forever stained Plainfield with some type of evil curse because of his deeds.
Oh, yeah.
And they may be right. I don't know. Many people have experiences there, including at some of the cemeteries where Gein did his grave robbing, also where Gein's buried right next to some of the victims that he dug up. Many people will go out to these cemeteries and see what appears to be somebody digging a grave. But when they get a little closer thinking, why aren't they using a backhoe?
The ghost of Ed Gein.
The person simply vanishes right into thin air, and there's no grave being dug. Others will see what appears to be Gein himself on his final resting place. Gein's tombstone is no longer there. It was stolen so many times they finally just said, we're not putting one back up. But his family's still buried there. You'll find his grave because people leave trinkets and pennies and the like, and they steal dirt from his grave as a grisly souvenir. Others, when they're done...
Dorks. I got dirt from Ed Gein's grave. It's totally ducking Dawson.
Visiting the cemeteries, we'll go to the old Warden's hardware store. This is where Gein actually took one of his living victims, Mrs. Warden, who owned the hardware store. Today it is a hardware hank, but inside hasn't changed much over the years. Former staff and workers told us they'd often be doing inventory or putting up new equipment when all of a sudden a box would go flying across the room as though thrown by some unseen force. Others will walk in and hear the sound of a rifle being fired. They can smell the gun smoke, the gunpowder, they heard it.
Any proof?
But no bullet has ever been fired. Gein actually killed Mrs. Warden with a rifle in the store. Others will be working when all of a sudden they'll see a woman come in the store, thinking she's a customer. They'll ask her if she needs help, and she vanishes right before their eyes. It's thought to be Mrs. Warden's
That's
spirit.
because she had too much toodaloo.
But the most popular place, if you can call it that, in Plainfield is Gein's old farm. Of course, as you saw, the home is gone, but the land is still there. Many believe it's cursed. Many people who venture out here report hearing the screams of women thought to be Gein's victim. Others will see
Well, that's just the locals raping bitches in the woods.
it appears to be Gein himself walking along his property. Many people have told me they feel like they've been cursed after visiting here. They'll get in a car accident, they'll run out of gas, all kinds of weird things happen. One woman struck a deer and ran out of gas in the same night. She thought the place was cursed. But if you do go here, don't do it on Halloween. most likely you'll get a trespassing ticket instead of a ghost story. What's interesting is the first time I went here, I had 2 psychics with me. They had no idea where we were. They thought we were in the middle of nowhere, Wisconsin, which is where Plainfield is. And as soon as we pulled up to this field, they refused to get out of the car because they were picking up on too much negative energy.
It'd have been cool if you filmed that, dude.
Want to get out. And those are the cases I really love. The cases where the psychics are too afraid to get out. And
What were the psychics' names?
Where Dean made his home. But as I'm running low on time, I want to end with the type of case that you haven't heard me talk about.
All right, guys, here's the big one. Ready?
Because it's a private home. And a lot of people who live in a house that is thought to be haunted, they don't want it to be known that their house is haunted. That's why this is not even an accurate drawing of the house I'm going to tell you about. It was back in 2002, 2003 when I was collecting stories traveling the state for the Wisconsin book. When I ran across a story from the area...
Pretending to be a psychic is so awesome. You don't need no proof. You just say, hey, this is going to happen. In 50 years or so.
Here about a haunted house. Tales were that nobody would want to spend the night and stay in this house. People would buy it, move out right away. They tried renting it. No one would stay. Mysterious knocking and rappings on the doors. People seeing the vanishing...
Like little zip?
A view of somebody walking by them. People seeing or hearing what appeared to be someone walking up and down the stairs at all times of the night, but nobody was ever there. Objects moving on their own, being rearranged. But here's the kicker. I'm not going to tell you where this house is here in the area, because later tonight, when all of you go home and put your head down on your pillows, I want you to ask yourself, how much do you know about the history of your house? And is it possible not only that you're living in a haunted house,
hey, fuck you, dude,
but you might be living in the very same house that I'm talking about?
Oh, shut up, dude. What an asshole. This guy's such an asshole.
Now, so with that, I wanted to say the last 10
exactly.
minutes or so that
Buy
we
my
have
book.
For any questions, comments, or stories that any of you might have. If you want more information, my website
What,
has
you didn't
more
give any in the first place?
than you could ever possibly want or need. Was anyone around of a certain age that remembers the Geen stuff when it was happening? Yeah. Usually a few people. I've had many people tell me that they remember as a kid hearing the Geen story, and that's the first time their parents ever locked the front door when they captured Ed Gein. A woman last year in October stood up and recited "'Twas the Night Before Christmas" all about Ed Gein. It was creepy. She had learned it as a kid, and it stuck with her. And I'm glad I didn't record it because it was really scary. Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
probably would have been good for your little presentation if you did, though. You know what I mean? The most lazy investigator on Mars.
Question or comment?
Did Ed Gein, he never married, he never had kids, is that right?
That's right.
Are there any descendants that still live up in or near Plainfield, do you know?
None of the immediate Gein family. Gein didn't have any children. His brother didn't. His brother mysteriously died in a field doing work, inhaling smoke, and Ed found him, and most likely Ed killed him. But none of the Gein family had children, and they were really, really odd. Again, likable. It was one of those characters that you'd say, oh, he's just a town character, harmless. And Ed would often joke when people came over and said, what's in the jar, Ed? And he'd say, a human heart. And they're, oh, Eddie, you kidder, you. The reason he got caught is he went into that hardware store to buy some antifreeze. And Mrs. Warden and her son, who was a deputy sheriff, said, we're out, you'll have to come back tomorrow, Ed.
The baby's calling this guy bullshit?
That day was deer hunting, and the son went out deer hunting, and when he came back to the store, there was blood everywhere, the safe was kicked open, his mother was missing, and he's wondering what the heck, and looks over, and there's a sale for antifreeze. And the last sale was for antifreeze, and he remembered Gein was in there, and they rushed out. Unfortunately, they found his mother strung up in a barn, dressed out like a deer.
Yeah. Did he end up in a mental hospital for a long time?
Yeah, believe it or not, the court found him too insane to stand trial, and they brought him to the insane asylum here in Wisconsin. And I talked to many nurses that worked there, some of which said that they'd often put dances on for the patients, the guests they called them. And for some reason, no one wanted to dance with Dean, so nurses would often have to dance with him. And they said that at first glance, he was this unassuming grandfather-type figure.
He'd grab for the titty meat.
When you looked at him, you could sense something wasn't right. And if you ever read Dean's interrogation, it's like they're talking to a 5-year-old. He claims that he was in a trance most of it. He doesn't recall why he did it, how he did it, or even if he did it. But at first they didn't believe him when he said, I dug up dozens of people. So they started checking the graves that he said he dug up. And after about a dozen, they said, we believe you. And they didn't disturb the rest. And they didn't know what body parts to put back, what they could. So yeah, a really creepy thing.
Sorry, guys. This was awful.
The hardware store's closed now.
Yeah, it was for sale for a while. Someone should buy it.
It's creepy in there.
Yeah, and even though it was 57, 58, people in Plainfield...
They probably didn't even have dank old dude pills back then.
Talking about it to this very day. That because every month or so I'll get a call from a documentary producer or something wanting to do something on Dean.
No, that's never happened. No one wants to know who you are.
Even all these years later.
Can't.
Yeah. And then if you've been to Plainfield, there's not much there. So I always advise people when they did stop into the hardware store, to buy a light bulb or an extension cord or something to get them to open up. But they had to cancel the Dahmer tours. They were wanting to do Dahmer tours, bus tours in Milwaukee.
He's doing one of these tonight. What year was this? Just out of curiosity. 2000. This is brand new. Come on, dude. You got to do better than what you're doing. This ain't good. This ain't a good presentation.
Uproar, which is much different. In Villisca, Iowa, they have an axe murder house where a family of 7 and true family friends were murdered back in 1912, and now you can rent it out for the evening and stay. It's called the Villisca.
This is one of the worst presentations I've ever seen, hands down. This is worse than Airplane Dude.
It rents out for $400 a night. It's booked almost all year long.
But guys, what I was actually going to play tonight is this long-haired douchebag. I guess went to Europe to do a UFO talk, and he's the cheesiest guy. He speaks for 2 hours, no pictures, nothing. He's like, "Yep, then the aliens they came and got me, and then I was talking to them aliens, and you know what they said." it's just that for 2 hours. I feel bad for whatever European country he was in.
Have you ever checked out in Kiwani, the hotel?
The Carson Inn, yes. Beautiful place. Thought to be haunted by several people, including an old woman. And I've stayed there a few times. The only thing that was kind of out of the ordinary for me when I was staying there is we were staying and the staff gave us a tour of the basement and told us all kinds of things would happen. And that when it was about 2 a.m., we were just laying down in the room, had all of our equipment running, just kind of talking about theories.
Even some morbidly obese like Wiccan slob has more interesting stories than this guy.
It would be haunted. Got really quiet, and then all of a sudden in our room it sounded like someone put a boot in a dryer and turned it on. Boom, 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 boom. And that was it. And people have all kinds of experience at the Carson Inn, yeah. Beautiful place. Even if you don't believe in ghosts or spirits, some of these haunted places have so much history that you'll leave with a wonderful weekend at the very least. Yes?
What's your strangest personal experience?
Oh, God. The time he got fucked in a truck stop bathroom by a big fat guy.
Strangest personal experience. I
met some guy named Zeke, and he put his pecker in a hot dog bun. Everyone was laughing, but I wasn't laughing.
In Central America, and for me, I always say, if you're going to these places and you're not getting scared, you're not trying hard enough. These are creepy places, and probably for me, the top scariest place, or one of them, was Transylvania. I was going through the woods at night in Transylvania. I was staying at a farm.
Can you get any more cliche than Transylvania?
A mile from town, 2 miles, and I had to cut through the woods.
It does suck. It's almost over though.
Being the experienced researcher that I was, all I had was a little light. That's it, nothing. Forgot everything else. Anyway, So I'm walking through the woods and the moon's out and I'm thinking, this is wonderful. I'm in Transylvania. How cool is this? But then,
And then he got pickpocketed by a bunch of gypsies.
mind starts playing tricks on you that every branch breaking was Vlad the Impaler coming up, inviting you to his castle. So I ended up running to town, and I ran back as close as I could without them knowing I ran. And I wasn't afraid of a vampire because I had my vampire.
What are you talking about?
I was more afraid of the atmosphere, and that's what really gets me. The creepiness, the what if, and it's just human nature to get spooked. If you don't believe in werewolves, you're just walking down Bray Road where the beast of Bray Road is thought to lurk, and there's cornfields everywhere, you're by yourself at midnight, your pace starts to quicken even if you're the most diehard skeptic in the world. Just human nature. So those are the things that get me. But in terms of paranormal events, there's always subtle things like capturing those weird myths on film or psychics claiming
it's only 7 seconds left. She ain't getting up.
they've been pushed or pinched when they were at places, but it's never anything that I would say 100% is paranormal.
Oh, I could have picked anything, but I picked that. Why the hell did I do that? That was terrible. Oh, guys, that was awful. But the first part was good. Zeke, what a character. Joey Wales. We'll never forget Joey Wales, guys. But hey, I gotta go. What a mess. I'll see you next week, everybody. I'll get you, Joey Wales. That ghost guy.
Where'd you think he's flying to? Maybe he has a family too.
Sucked mega peckers. I'm out of here.